We've got 6 Rams that will have to fight for their jobs or even outright lose their roles based on what the Rams do this Thursday in the draft. And where's the Rams roster stack up with the league's best? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you have not yet, if you only listen on the pod, head to YouTube, join the party, subscribe. We're getting close to 17,000 subscribers. Definitely would mean a lot to subscribe. Also, hit the like button and hit the notification bell. Drop some comments down below on all your takes on all things Rams football. My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me D-Mac. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, Dodgers Nation, SI. I also do NFL radio for Westwood One. Today I'm flying solo. Today the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, will be back tomorrow, but we got a jam-packed episode. We're talking about the draft, but more specifically, how the picks in the draft could ultimately determine the fate of some current Rams on the roster that you might not expect to be off this team. Also, we're talking some Poona Ford. Haven't talked about him lately and what that could mean for the Rams, and how does this Rams roster stack up with the rest of the league. Some roster power rankings were just released. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for the Armada Player of the Week later in the show. Okay, so we're going to dive right into it. I know my numbing draft talk can be a little much. Throwing out all kinds of speculation. They could go this way. They go that way. They could draft this player. They could draft that player. Guys you may have never heard of, guys that you might be more familiar with. At the end of the day, no one can guess 100% what the Rams are going to do. I think we have a pretty good idea of who they're going to target and the positions they're going to target. But let's get back to talking to some players that are currently on the roster and how what could happen on Thursday could impact their job status with the team. And first guy we're going to talk about is Tyler Higbee and Colby Parkinson. Colby Parkinson, $15 million guaranteed, signed a $22.5 million contract with the Rams last season. He was supposed to be that red zone threat. He was supposed to open up the position a little bit. Unfortunately, he did not have the year that they would hoped he would have, standing at 6'7", 251 pounds. They're hoping to be that red zone threat. Well, his overall grade on PFF, 63.3. That's 28 out of 37 tight ends. The receiving grade, 28th, just did not have the year you were hoping. 47 targets, 30 catches, 294 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. That's not what they thought they were getting for that price, right? They were hoping to get a Beamer. They got Nissan Ultima level, right? But without the reps, right? Without the volume, right? I mean, Ultima, it's a good car, right? It's a car that can do something for you. Can take you to point A to point B. Colby Parkinson, they thought they were getting a luxury car, and they end up getting nothing, right? They got virtually just minimal production, and you were hoping for a lot more. So if they do go out and draft a tight end, like a Colson Loveland, if they get someone in the later rounds, I think a name we've talked about that I think is definitely becoming increasingly more intriguing is Elijah Arroyo out of Miami. You got Loveland you could trade up for, possibly get a 26. You got Warren you could trade up for, possibly. But if they do get a tight end, Tyler Higbee, I think that his reps go down potentially, and they probably want to preserve him because of his age. And Colby Parkinson as well, because if they draft a tight end, it's for the present and the future because they want to open up this offense. So that's a position that could drastically change as far as the current players' roles on the roster based on what they do on Thursday. And then we got to talk about the quarterback position. Have not mentioned this name on this show for quite some time, and that is Stetson Bennett. So Stetson Bennett, we talked about him a lot as far as could he be a capable backup quarterback? I don't think there's anyone that realistically thought that he could be a future QB1 for this organization. But his journey with the Rams has been more downs than ups, right? I mean, he wasn't with the team. They didn't get into specifics about what it was about. But if the Rams go out there and they draft a quarterback, if they say, hey, Jackson Dart fell into our lap, Jador Sanders fell into our lap, we like Jalen Milroe, if they think any of those things and they take a quarterback, well, you already have Jimmy Garoppolo and Matthew Stafford. Hey, it could be the end of Stetson Bennett with the Rams. So if the Rams, I think it depends on kind of what kind of capital they give up, right? I mean, if you took a Kyle McCord later in the draft, if you take a quarterback early, I think if you just take a quarterback in general, then you got to give him his walking papers and he's going to be looking for a job with another team. But his future with this organization was already kind of bleak based on just not being the guy that they thought he was going to be, even as a backup. But that could spell the end of his time with the Rams if you go and you draft a quarterback high enough. And then there's the cornerback spot. How about Ahkello Witherspoon? He's dependable. He's been with the organization for a couple years now. They keep bringing him back, and he definitely feels bridgy. He feels stopgappy. It's not your long-term solution. He's far from bad, but far from elite, that kind of guy. When you look at the quarterback room right now, you got Darion Kendrick coming back. You got Kobe Durant in the fold still. Both of those guys will be free agents after the 2025 season. Darius Williams, he is someone that is not a guaranteed a roster spot the following year either. So the Rams, if you went and took a corner high, we've talked about Dejounte Barons, guys like that. If you took a corner high, that could first just reduce a role of one of the current guys, and two, spell the end of any chance they had getting back with this organization the following year. So I think with Ahkello Witherspoon, the interesting thing is kind of what version of him are you getting? I think for Ahkello, there's been a lot of talk about how he performs early on the season versus later in the season. He's been invaluable for this team. He sort of won a game with a late interception last year, right? Saw the play that he made against the Cardinals. I mean, that definitely kind of showed you what he's capable of in a big spot, right? He can go out there and he can make plays. He can absolutely make plays. That's what he does if in the right situations. I mean, having a game-saving interception is certainly a way to endear yourself to the fan base and to the coaches, but that's a position that they need a long-term solution for. If they use high draft premium capital on it, then that could also be another area where they look to move on. And then how about Cam Curl at the DB spot, right? I mean, you look at Cam Curl. I think he's someone that he comes in, he had a good amount of experience, and you were hoping that maybe got a little more from him. I mean, he hasn't had an interception since 2020. That was his rookie season. So he's not that ball hog, turnover, game-changing type of player. He is someone that for sure gives you some stability at the position when he's right. But Cam Curl is another guy. I mean, you look at just that room in general, you got basically a guy with Cameron Kinchins who has already kind of looked like he's one of the better safeties in the league. I think he has the potential to be a top 5 to 10 safety in the sport. Quinn Lake, he's someone that brings you the versatility of playing the slot. We'll see if he can take down the star role at some point. And you look at Cam Curl, he's someone that he'll be a free agent after 2025. He signed that 2-year, $9 million deal last offseason. He's someone that, I mean, we talk about Malachi Stark, something like that. I don't think they're going to draft a safety, but he's someone that could lose his spot in the pecking order as well. So a lot of these guys could absolutely be impacted significantly in the draft. And the next guy we're going to talk about is one of the most polarizing Rams in the recent memory. Has a lot of speed, a lot of talent, too fast, too furious. We're going to talk about how the draft could impact his role. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25, Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. It's the latest technology, and it's elevated playing. With Wi-Fi 6 and 6E and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. It's also affordable and it's portable. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. It's good for me. I travel a lot for baseball, for football, so to have that Fire Stick with me, I can plug it in and play it without having to bring my console with me. And it's just a great thing. I mean, honestly, it blows my mind that they can have this technology, this level of gameplay, those games, those graphics, and it's just a Fire Stick. I mean, it's just incredible. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including a Fire TV Stick 4K, second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube, third generation. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, as always, I want to send some love. I want to give a special shout out to those every listeners out there. The Ramley, you know who you are, watching and listening to every single episode, whether it be the podcast version, the YouTube version, dropping comments, dropping reviews. Cannot thank you enough. We've got a lot of new viewers lately and a lot of new listeners lately. And if you're new to the channel, want to lock in Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, over on YouTube as well. Tune in, and then you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Okay, getting back into it, let's talk about more players whose roles could be impacted by what the Rams do on this Thursday's NFL draft. And we are going to talk about a player that has to be the most polarizing player that I can think of in the last couple of seasons, and that is Tutu Atwell. We're not going to do the big rewind and discuss him being picked where he was and this and that. We're talking about the here and now of Tutu Atwell. And he signed a 1-year, $10 million deal to re-up with the Rams. And it came to a shock to many. A lot of people were surprised by it just because of how underutilized he was by Sean McVay and this Rams offense. And McVay, he talked about it. And he copped to it, right? He said that they did not scheme enough and take advantage of what he does. So how could they complain about a player that they didn't give enough opportunity to when he has gotten those opportunities? He's had success to varying degrees. And McVay said, I think when you look at his body of work, when he's been able to play, especially in some of the times that he was playing when Cooper was on IR, there was a lot of production. If you project that over the course of 17 games, you just watch what he was able to do. He's mature as a young man. I love the person, getting to know him, and I think that he's only getting better. I think the fans are accurate in that I haven't done a good enough job of utilizing him. So for all you fans out there that have said that the Rams haven't done enough with Tutu Atwell, well, Sean McVay acknowledges that that's the truth, right? So I also can tell you, just from knowing what I know, that Tutu was a Sean McVay pick. And I think that there's a little bit of that element to this. It's the sunk cost fallacy in play. And I think that they also see what he was able to do, right? I mean, the numbers don't lie. He did have success when he was filling in for Cooper, when he was filling in for Puka, when he has that ADOT and the ability to stretch the field, average depth of target. He has shown things and the ability to do things that aren't easy to find. And that is, you can't teach speed, and the Rams don't have a ton of that in their receiver room. So I think for him, the interesting thing is, do they go out there And do they draft at that position? We've talked about Luther Burden out of Missouri. We've talked about Matthew Golden out of Texas, that 4.29 40. If they did draft a receiver on the higher side and they have an impressive training camp and you're looking for a different dynamic, that's a position where, look, Davante Adams could be here for just a year. Tutu Atwell could be here for just a year. So you're looking for some long-term pieces to put around Puka Nacua, and the wide receiver spot is an area where, yeah, McVay likes to go with his guys, but I think that moving forward, there's going to be a competition to see who outside of Puka, who outside of Davante Adams is going to step up and be that third option. And, of course, they want to give it to Tutu Atwell because they have him back on a $10 million deal. But I can guarantee you, this is the same organization that signed Jonah Jackson to that big deal. And as soon as he was getting outplayed by Bo Limmer, he was displaced, right? They supplanted a new guy in there. So I think that, for me, that's always going to be in play outside of those two positions. So I would not be surprised to see Tutu have to battle for his job if they draft a wide receiver higher. Jordan Whittington's a guy that's in the fold. I mean, there's some guys in there, but I think the best case scenario is that Tutu gets an opportunity and he runs with it. Now, another guy, how about Nick Hampton? So Nick Hampton, he is going to have an opportunity because Michael Hoyt is on the Buffalo Bills now. He signed with the Bills during free agency. Hoyt has had a growing role on this team, a prominent role on this team as an untraditional edge rusher listed over 300 pounds, struggled in open spaces to make tackles against playmakers, but also did some really nice things as well. Well, Nick Hampton's a guy they picked up in the 5th round a few years ago in the 2023 NFL draft, and he could step up into that role as a guy that's in the rotation situationally that can rush the quarterback, right? And I think the Rams are always looking at edge rushers. That's what I can tell you. The Rams are always sniffing around, looking at edge rushers because they know that that is the most valuable position on the defensive side to them right now, at least in the conversation. I mean, you took Jared Verse when you did last year, and it was an absolute slam dunk. If you look at the redraft, I mean, be right towards the top. So he was a fantastic pick. And then you're looking for some depth behind Byron Young as well, because Byron Young, he's someone that, I mean, before you blink, he is someone that could be up for an extension, right? And at some point, the Rams are going to have to think about extending someone like a Byron Young. So if Nick Hampton steps up and he takes advantage of his opportunity, then that makes it where there's less pressure to extend Byron Young. But also, if you do take an edge rusher and they outperform Nick Hampton, then his spot could be taken. So that's a name that I look at too, is Nick Hampton on the edge rusher spot right there. But yeah, I mean, you had 6 guys that really could either be completely replaced or just fighting for their jobs. And there's definitely going to be competition in on that as well. So yeah, let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about Poona Ford. Very excited about Poona Ford. Some new details came out about the Rams' pursuit of him and how they were able to get a deal done with him this offseason. They signed him to a 3-year, $27.6 million deal. And it's a move that I think that has gone under-discussed just because there's been so much discussion about Davante Adams and Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, all these big brand names. Well, Poona Ford is an absolute dog. He's an absolute beast, and he fills a role that the Rams really, really needed someone to fill. They needed someone that could step up and be dominant in the run game and add some girth to that defensive line, and he brings that. And a lot of people were wondering why he did not go back to the Chargers. Well, Joe Hortz, the general manager of the Chargers, he said they were trying really, really hard and aggressively to bring him back. He said that they made him a competitive offer, but the Rams were also extremely aggressive, and they got him to sign. And I think that a lot has to do with how well this Rams organization can recruit, how much they're willing to pay guys at the right positions. And Chris Shula did a great job of painting the vision that he wanted to see from him, and getting a guy that can help stop the run in a big way. Because there were times last year, you have Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk. They can stop the run, but Ford, he's been one of the best at doing that in the sport. He was third best last year, according to PFF, at his position when it comes to stopping the run. And you look at a Rams defense that they were 7th in expected points added per play. And over the final 4 weeks of the season, that is just really impressive. But they were below average in defense when it came to factoring the entire season and stopping the run. So Poona Ford, he comes in, and it's going to be very impactful. The Rams defense, they were 23rd in defensive success rate against the run, 41%, 30th in stuff rate at 15.3%. Ford is going to improve that number all by himself alone, and I think guys are going to feed off that as well. I mean, last year the Rams, they allowed at least 100 rushing yards in 15 games. And in both playoff games, first against the Vikings and then against the Eagles. So they addressed this issue with Poona Ford. The Rams get him to stay in the same building, SoFi Stadium, but go to the team that owns it with the Los Angeles Rams. And I think that this is a move that we're going to be talking about all season long because of the fact that he's a great player, but also fills a specific need that they need. I could not be more excited. I mean, big, bad Poona Ford. I've had my eyes on him for years now, and to get him on the Rams, I think is going to be huge, and it's going to be massive just because we saw what happened last year with Saquon Barkley. We saw what happened in that game. And yes, it's not easy to stop Saquon Barkley, and I don't care who it is. It's going to be difficult. But the fact that they were able to get someone that's elite at a deficiency they had, it shows you that they're not just thinking about the glitz and glamour of the wide receiver spot in Devontae Adams and bringing back QB1 Matthew Stafford. They're thinking about the roster at the very top, at the very bottom, and in the middle, and that is how you build a Super Bowl contending roster, and that is what I believe they have done this offseason. And depending on what they do in the draft, I think that's going to ultimately determine what can get them truly over the top. But coming up next, where does this Rams roster stack among the best rosters in the sport? We'll talk about that next on Locked On Rams. The Armada Player of the Week is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, we're taking a look at our draft prospects to pick one guy that stands apart. The guy we believe showcased the strength and power need to push the Rams forward as we look ahead to the next season. This week's Armada and clear-cut Player of the Week is Michigan tight end Colston Loveland. Could Sean McVay and the Rams get that dynamic playmaking tight end that they've coveted for years? They don't have to trade up for a Tyler Warren. They get Loveland with the 26th pick, and this is a guy that could have a massive impact in year one, a year where Matthew Stafford is looking to win another Super Bowl along with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua and the rest of the gang. So I like him in year one having a big impact if they can find him at 26. And he's heavy duty. He's rugged. He conquers the road with capability and confidence. So dream big, go big. And when it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer. And that's exactly what I think of and what I think that Colston Loveland can do here. It's clear that our Player of the Week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of their outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Also available over on YouTube. If you haven't yet, trying to push that 17,000 subscribers, getting close. Do me a huge favor, subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Would really, really appreciate that. But here in our third segment, we are talking about the Rams roster overall. The Athletic just dropped their rankings of the best rosters in the NFL, and the Rams came in at number 8. Here's what they said about the Rams roster. Out goes Cooper Kupp, and in comes Devontae Adams to keep the Rams set at the offensive skill position. The offensive line is average, so that's not an immediate need, though a dominant offensive tackle could go a long way to helping this offense take another step toward elite. For as much progress as the defense made last season, it still needs some work. The defensive line made strides last year with rookies Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, but they're still lacking playmakers on that side of the ball, especially at linebacker, where they project to have one of the worst units in the league. So that's interesting to hear them say that. And certainly when you look at where the Rams are, I don't think that anyone that watches this team even casually would be shocked at the Rams linebacker play taking a hit. But still, I think you look at overall, before the draft, you're at number 8. That's definitely something that's pretty impressive when you consider how close this team was to a complete down-to-the-studs rebuild a couple years ago. It'll go on to say, the model took various metrics and assigned a value to each player, showing their impact on a single game. Based on that, the Rams had the 5th best roster in the NFC out of the Eagles, Lions, Buccaneers, and Packers. Said it's no surprise that Philadelphia and Detroit are slated to have the top 3 rosters. But, I mean, I think for me, having Tampa Bay and Green Bay ahead of the Rams, not so sure I agree with that. I mean, you look at the Packers. If you had better receivers, maybe you could push it for that top 5 label. But as talented as Green Bay is, I just think that's more of they're the Packers, they're Midwest, East Coast, the Rams sitting on the West Coast. I'm not so sure I agree with that ranking. But still, I mean, look, if you are a top 5 to 10 roster, the way that things can break and how close and evenly matched some of these games can be, then it comes down to execution and coaching. And when you factor in Sean McVay, when you factor in having a Super Bowl winning head coach with rookies that I think are tough to evaluate. I think it's tough to evaluate Jared Verse and Kobe Turner and Byron Young and Braden Fisk, because I think that as good as they are, they could take the leap to being seasoned Pro Bowl, all pro level players in their second year, third year, fourth year, right? Guys are just getting up the notch there. And same thing with Puka Nacua, right? I mean, if Puka's healthy, right? I mean, I think that a lot of this is predicated on established stars and how well you know them. But I think with this Rams team in particular, there's a lot of guys that have popped that can still take a leap. There's still a ceiling there for their young talent. And think about this. If they hit on any of these guys in the upcoming draft at anywhere near the level that they've done in the last couple of seasons, like let's say they find someone who is even as close to being as good as Kobe Turner was in year 1, as close to being as good as Puka Nacua was in year 1 or year 2, as close to being as good as Jared Verse was in year 1 or year 2, in positions of need, like cornerback, like linebacker, then you're looking at a more complete roster that I think immediately jumps up to being a top 3 to 5 roster. That is how crucial the success in this upcoming draft is for this Rams organization. I think for a lot of teams out there, you're like, okay, we've been just so-so in the draft, but you have to be even more excited if you're a Rams fan because they've struck gold the last 2 years, and they're hot right now. They are hot right now. If I'm going to Vegas, I'm taking the Rams with me. I'm taking Les Snead with me because they've been hitting, and that's hopefully what they'll do once again. If they do that and they get these turnkey plug-and-play level players, tight end, I mean, if they get these guys at a dynamic running back, if you get these guys, there's a lot of room for, because they've hit on certain positions in previous years, and you don't have to just completely look at, oh, let's just get the most talented player available. No, they're in a good position where they can actually pick the best player at a certain position to round out the roster. And I think that's where you want to be as a team in your roster build. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.